welcome to episode 299 of Late Night Linux. I'm Joe, and with me are Fadim.
How's it going?
Graham.
Good evening.
And Will.
Hello.
Let's get straight on with our discoveries then. Will, signal processing course.
All right, strap in. Previously, Phelim asked if he could do some signal processing to download aircraft data on a Raspberry Pi Pico, to which the answer is maybe. I don't know enough about it. Well, now I know enough about it. I know enough about it to know that it's very, very hard. And the reason I know about it is because I discovered a free undergrad level course on signal processing for free on GitHub. And it's pretty amazing. The syllabus covers a lot of signal processing, Fourier transforms, the maths behind it, the physics behind it, and there's, I think, an exam at the end of it as well. I haven't quite got that far yet. But this is like a proper Python-focused course on how to deal with digital signal and digital signal processing, all the maths that you need. And you could, if you're so inclined, go and read this book and learn how to do it. I might read it in some year's time. I think I'm going to put it on my list.
You giant dirty liar. You are a liar of the highest proportion.
I think I will read it.
You are as much a liar about this as I, if this was a PDF that was O'Reilly was selling, would have clearly bought and never looked at. Like, much like the Python for fucking digital signaling processing that I already have that I've not looked at. This is really cool though.
Well, there is a 10 megabyte PDF that you can download.
I wish I was... What is the word? Dedicated? No.
Bored enough to
diligent.
Single.
All of these things are correct. Yeah, I wish.
Well, I looked down the chapter list. Chapter 1, Introduction. Okay. Chapter 2, Python. Chapter 3, Complex Algebra. Nope, I'm out. But Phelim, you said that the best bit about playing darts is the maths. So you've got no excuse. You like this shit. Get on with it. Get it learnt, son.
All right. Okay. And then, I'll develop a non-fear of heights and get up on my roof and attach that antenna.
Yeah. Last time we had a lockdown, I did some courses and got a lot out of it. So if we could just arrange for another global pandemic.
No, my son has already been saying this because he goes back to school on Thursday. This is like the end of August Thursday. And he's already been going, imagine we had another lockdown. How great would that be? I mean, I don't want to catch monkeypox, but I mean, wouldn't that be great? And I'm like, no, stop.
It's called Mpox now, Phelim. Come on, get with the times.
Oh, sorry.
Phelim, can you just go for another piss quickly while we talk about KDE Connect and how great that is? I can't have you gloating, I'm afraid. But even on XFCE, it is amazing. So I had a very particular problem to solve. I've got a dartboard and I like to play darts, and I got a bit bored of listening to podcasts. So I wanted to watch a bit of YouTube, maybe watch the news, that sort of thing. So I thought, I've got a monitor and an old Mac Mini. So I installed Linux on the Mac Mini, connected it all up. Haven't got a keyboard and mouse. Aha, KDE Connect. So I installed KDE Connect on my phone and on Ubuntu, and you can just use your phone as a keyboard and mouse. Well, touchpad and keyboard. It's absolutely brilliant. It's even got media controls, so I can skip around the video that I'm watching.
Yeah.
None of all that, notifications and file transfer bollocks. Don't need any of that. But just as a keyboard and mouse that I've already got in my pocket, it is amazing.
And what I use it for is when I am perhaps, say, upstairs on the lavatory and I have found a bunch of very interesting links, I can send them to my PC. Which is equally good because if the browser's already open on my desktop, it just opens a new tab and that appears in there. And it's fantastic for doing that when you want to get something from your phone to it. If you don't have a already linked Firefox profile, which I definitely would not do on my phone.
I assume you use KDE Connect as well, Graham.
I've talked about it before. It's saved my life so many times because on my desktop PC, I've got a dodgy USB hub that basically I have my mouse and keyboard plugged into, and it sometimes messes up the USB system on my Linux machine. And so I'm completely left. I could SSH to it, but with KDE Connect, I'm able to get back into the system, and I've got a script that restarts all my USB stuff so I can get back to a working system. And there's so many times it's saved me. I was just wondering, I've Googled it. There's a GTK KDE Connect.
GS Connect, is it?
The one I found is called Valent or Valent.
Oh, right, yeah. I don't know why I didn't use that, really. I thought that it was dead, but then was it revived? Either way, it's definitely not as mature as KDE Connect. And yeah, I had to pull down a shitload of Qt dependencies, but I've got a 500 gigabyte SSD in that Mac Mini, and I'm not really storing anything locally. So who cares if I have to pull down a gigabyte of KDE bollocks?
Yeah, next step, installing KDE.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're almost there to a proper working decent desktop there, Joe. So,
No. Sometimes I find that it won't connect and I have to refresh it and then it will connect on boot.
Sounds like an XFCE error to me.
Yeah, almost certainly. I think what it is if I open KDE Connect before it's fully booted, then it doesn't connect and I have to refresh it. I don't know. But it's been pretty solid. And you do get occasional sort of blips in the mouse movements and stuff, but I'm really just putting a video on or putting the news on or whatever and then just leaving it most of the time. And I would imagine that it is much more integrated to KDE with volume and, media stuff, but it does a fair job. I mean, I'm using VLC, which probably helps with that being cute and stuff. So I would highly recommend it no matter what desktop you're on if you don't mind pulling down a shitload of dependencies. Graham, Fritzure, I think that's how you say this, an audio analysis tool.
Yeah, so this is verging a little bit into audio geekery, but hold on, it is really useful. It's basically an audio analysis toolkit that even ordinary people could find useful, I think.
How? How would they do
Okay, well,
this?
so what it does is it's got various kind of visualizations for audio. It's got like a spectrogram, which you can find in Audacity. It's got a octave spectrum widget and another spectrum view, which is a great way to see if there are low frequency peaks or troughs or high level noises in your environment and you want to kind of nail them and find what the sources are. There's a scope widget that you can use as an oscilloscope. There's also a delay estimator, and that will tell you the delay between the sound in the left speaker reaching the right speaker. And also it will tell you the phase if you're using two inputs. This is all it is, but it's all in a single package. It's great for setting up speakers. I mean, it's great for telling you whether you've wired the phase of your speakers in the right way, but also if you've got an amplifier where you can put in delays for where you sit, you can calculate delays for where you sit. But if you've got a hum, if you've got something that you don't know if sounds right, or if you don't know if your speakers are producing the entire frequency you want them to, it's just a quick way of getting all those tools in one place, because I don't think there is a good way of doing this any other way. It's a really great suite of utilities.
If you're the kind of person who buys £1,000 gold-plated audio cables.
I just want to see your house where the speed of sound actually matters as to where you're sitting from where your speakers are.
It does, because Joe backed me up on this. You don't actually have to be far away for the delay to change the phase of audio, and that will lead to either resonant frequencies, so typically you either lose the bass or you get far too much bass. And these kind of utilities help you position the bass speaker in a much better position, or at least understand what the problem is.
I will take your word for it.
Really.
What equipment do you need to be able to make use of this, though?
A very cheap mic. I mean, it depends how much detail. For the delays, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even a laptop mic will tell you that.
I mean, some of the frequencies it's talking about seems to be well outside the range of what I expect a microphone would do, unless it was like a special one. But
well, I mean, if you want to record bats, then yeah, maybe. But even then, a decent mic at a high sampling frequency should be able to do something like that.
Okay.
But then it's a good way of testing the capabilities of your mic. You
can also tell whether MP3s have been transcoded as well. Like they say they're 320, but actually they were transcoded from a 128 or whatever, because they're missing loads of high frequencies.
Yeah.
A bit like my hearing then, missing quite a lot of high frequencies. I can't believe you weaseled me into downloading this. This is ridiculous.
It looks good.
It does seem a bit niche, but if you really care about audio, then something like this can be very, very expensive.
I don't, but it's got graphs. I mean, if it's got graphs, I'm in.
This is the kind of thing that people will pay companies to come into their house and do and charge them loads of money for.
Yeah, or the kind of software on other platforms that costs hundreds of pounds.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those sleeper projects, isn't it? It's one of those little things that it's never going to be huge, but it's going to save a lot of people a lot of money and hassle of messing around with proprietary commercial options. And it's not something you're going to use every day. This is not your home assistant. This is not your Engine X or whatever. This is something you're going to use for your audio setup once or twice, probably, every few years when you upgrade stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. And with more and more people doing things like podcasts or video channels, it does help to run your recordings through something like this because you can see what the problems are, even if you can't hear them.
Yeah, and you can do maths and find standing waves and stuff. Like if you've got a wave of this certain frequency, that means the wavelength is this, and therefore you can work out which walls it's bouncing off and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Most living rooms are small. Our living room is small, and it's a funny shape. And if you're going to invest in a low-frequency speaker, then you need to know where to put it. Gosh, I know I'm just going to be faded out to reverb.
Late night audio wankers. Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are company-owned devices, IT-approved apps, and managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the actual straightest line from point A to B. Those are unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. It's security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. So support the show and check it out at onepassword.com/late-night-linux. That's onepassword.com/late-night-linux. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to latenightlinux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And you even get some episodes early. And if you want to get in contact, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. Phelim, what?
Exactly. What is what? That is a good question.
Who's on first?
So, as it says, what is a powerful inspection tool that allows you to delve into the inner workings of Python objects?
Yeah, tell us. What's this tool that you're talking about?
It's called what?
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called what?
WAT, okay.
WAT, yes. It is very useful. If I was giving any advice to Python dev, which I really shouldn't because I should never give advice to anybody about anything, to be quite honest, is to use bpython3, which is a lovely REPL command line with a bit of useful help and info boxes and stuff. But also, the what tool is fantastic. So, say you install a library, you don't really know how it works, you can type WAT space / and then say RD tool, like a new RD tool library that I installed only today. Shut up, Will, it's fine. Don't need newfangled nonsense. And then you can just hit enter, and it gives you a nice, lovely text display in color, help you through the thing, all the various functions that you can run, ways to do it. And say you want to know what one of those functions is, you can just add that to the end. So you say what / RD tool say fetch, and then ta-da, there we go. It gives you input of that function. And it can do that for various different things, even down to like data types. You can just do a what on, say, an integer, and it'll tell you all about an integer or a datetime object or whatever. And it's just a fantastic way of actively looking through data as you go, as you import, as you look at objects. And a lovely tool, really well documented, and it's just a pip install away.
You have no idea how much time I spend typing dir open brackets and then the function. This will save me hours.
And then you try to remember, how do you go through everything that's in that object? Because it's not iterable. So how do I do that again? And then you start digging through that and you're like, I don't make any sense of this shit. And I got to say, the Python documentation is probably one of its weakest things. I don't like the documentation that gets auto-generated on the Python website. It could be better, if you ask me. But hey, it's a bit like man pages. Man pages are fine if they tell you exactly what you want to know, but generally you just go, give me fucking 5 different ways to use this the best way possible, and I'll learn from that. But yeah, What is a nice tool. And if you use that with bpython 3, I find that is quite a nice way to have an interactive and sort of useful way to look through the library as you go.
Next time you tell us about commands, Phelim, don't worry about typing them out. I'll add that sound effect in post.
I thought it'd be good. It was helping me flow as I went through the description. I was like, it's literally what I did earlier today.
Audio editors hate him. Click here to find out why.
10 reasons.
And HiFi.
So I had a project, I was working on a API for something, and I needed to see the back and forth between the current existing system and a browser. And I was unfortunately so remote that I couldn't even get to it from my own browser. So I had somebody else do it, and I was able to get them to dump me the HTTP archive file, which is a HAR file. And it was unfortunately at the end of a VPN, so I didn't have the normal browser tools to view it. And I need a CLI version of parsing that data. Enter HarView. It's a nice command line tool for browsing that sort of stuff. It's think of the web dev tools that is in your browser, and basically that's what you have. But you can obviously grep it and parse it through, and you can do various levels of verboseness as to if you want to see various parts of the back and forth between the two things. And that's pretty much it until you get it out. And it turns out that anyway, you could use browser tools to view a HAR file anyway, if you open a new tab and just upload the HAR file. But if you have some sort of restriction where you're not able to do that, very handy.
How are you generating these HAR files?
So what I was able to do was somebody on the far end was able to interact with the website and API and use their browser tools to record the network back and forth. So if you go to the web dev tools and say Firefox, which is F12, there's a network tab where you can see the back and forth between the server and it. And that includes things like the requests made, the responses back from it, loads of info that you may need or may not need, but the fact that you're able to get it in a form that you can archive together, which is what the HAR is, means you can actually load open this tool, or even if you can get somebody to send it to you, then you can even use Firefox. If you open a new tab, press F12, you can say, open a HAR file, and that way you can get access to it as well. So it's almost like you did what you had to do at the far end. And it's very useful for things like that.
Yeah, very good.
Let's do some feedback then. Tim writes, I've been greatly enjoying the conversations you've been having about the ad-centric revenue model of the modern internet. I can't help but feel, however, that the recurring notion that people just don't want to pay for ad-free content is somewhat disingenuous. In my experience, it isn't that I don't want to pay for ad-free content, but that I can't justify paying the amount that is asked for it. Take podcast adverts as an example. I've done the maths based on average rates and my weekly listening habits, and I'm worth about £78 per year in ad revenue. I would happily pay this amount or even double. On the other hand, if I were to subscribe to the ad-free Patreon tiers for all these podcasts, that would come to almost £2,000 per year. If we want to encourage a transition to a subscription-based internet, I feel that this chasmic gap needs to close. I appreciate that many followers are ardent fans who will pay more than this ad equivalent rate, and they can still be offered extra perks, such as behind-the-scenes content and early access to justify a larger contribution. I would love to hear your thoughts on this matter. Well, let me get this out of the way first of all. Payment fees. That's what it boils down to, Tim.
What do you mean?
I was going to ask the same thing. What?
What I mean is this. The idea of micropayments, right? So your £78 per year that you think you're worth in ad revenue, that's not to one podcast, is it? That sounds to me like it's to a lot of podcasts. So if you chop that up and paid each of them, a couple of pounds here, a couple of pounds there, then most of the money that you are trying to give them will be swallowed in processing fees. Whether that is Patreon, Stripe, PayPal, however you're doing it, you're going to end up having most of that money swallowed up. And so it's not really practical to do micropayments because of fees. Unless you want to get into crypto scams, which we definitely don't. So before anyone suggests that, that is not the answer to this. I mean, it's an answer, but it's a fucking terrible answer to this. And we've had different companies try this over the years. We've had Flatter, for example, and it just didn't work. So essentially what we need is the voluntary system that we have now where a small number of people support everyone else.
I can see where Tim's coming from. I've often thought where, say, even the subscription TV programs where you're paying X amount per month and you're thinking, that's quite a lot of money if I add them all up. I wish there was almost like a fee where they could say, look, we need X amount to operate, and anything after that, then we'll start dropping the price, where maybe, I don't know how realistic it is, but imagine you could say, well, I need, I don't know, €1,000 every month, whatever. And once you hit that, you'll be able to then drop the price. So people could subscribe to it, and they might subscribe at €3 per month, and then it would drop to 2, whatever, depending on the amount of people, because as long as somebody makes a living out of it, it's capped. It's not very realistic. I don't understand how it would be done spread over a year, but it's a bit like the way the Freaksing guys do the support for Debian long-term support, where they say, we need X per hour to do this work. And if 1,000 companies come in and pay €1, it's the same as one company paying 1,000 sort of thing.
But it's not, though, because of payment fees.
Right.
You see, the fees on €1,000 payment are not going to be the same on €1,001 payments.
Right. Okay. That's probably where I don't get it. So yeah, that makes sense. Ish.
Yeah. And again, there's payment fees with crypto as well, so don't give me that bullshit. I don't think there's anyone still listening who would, but you never know. This is a very hard problem. And the solution is...
Send you money in a brown envelope?
Yeah, definitely. Meet me in the car park. The solution is a small number of people will pay arguably over the odds. Thank you, patrons. And then the rest of the people will have to listen to ads. That's the solution that we've come up with. And there isn't really a better one. Otherwise, we'd be fucking doing it.
Mm.
But back to Tim's question and point. It's a lovely idea in theory for everyone to pay a tiny amount or a small amount. But processing fees eat that up. And until we find a non-Ponzi scheme, scam way of sending money on the internet without fees, we're just stuck with this situation. Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it'll probably be news and stuff, but we'll have to see. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.